This is Miles Azzeh from Max Fisher Productions. I have the supreme honor of being joined today by Brandon Wolak, bassist of the band the Vonnegutians, formerly the Sean Wells Band. Brandon, how are you today?
Not too bad, Miles. It's good to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too. The Vonnegutians, interesting name of a band. Big fans of Kurt Vonnegut, I take it?
Who?
The author, the science fiction author, Kurt Vonnegut.
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course, Miles, of course. Kurt Vonnegut's one of my all-time heroes, and yeah, I love that guy. So, of course, yeah, Vonnegutians.
So it goes.
So it goes.
Tell me a bit about your band. What genre of music would you say your band most?
We are all over the place. When we first started our band, there was a four-piece, kind of like the Beatles. This other band that's maybe you've heard of.
A bit.
We started off playing something called Red Dirt Country, which is this pretty strange genre of country music that Willie Nelson started it. That it's more like outlaw country type stuff, and I like that because my roots are like punk rock and ska music. So it was pretty cool for me to kind of get into that, but the country side of it. And now today, I have no idea what we are. We just kind of play whatever. So
would you say Bob Dylan falls at all into that first category that you were talking about? What was it again? Red Dirt Country,
outlaw country. It's from Oklahoma and Texas area. But Dylan, not so much, although he is an outlaw. I mean, I guess you could kind of say that folk sound and stuff like that. But Red Dirt's not so much the political stuff that Dylan dabbled in. Red Dirt, it's just more country type themes, a little bit more outlaw, a little bit. It's a counterculture. The best way I could explain is more like punk rock meets country music. Also rockabilly-ish in some ways. So yeah.
Very nice. How about your fan base? Been able to expand that and perform live?
Yeah, of course. The fan base thing, starting off as a local college band, mostly we just played for other English majors and stuff, because we're all English majors in our group when we started. But by the end of it, man, it blew up to, like, I'd say, I think on Facebook we probably had about 200-300 fans following us that were unique, that weren't just friends and family, essentially. So, yeah, people from all over the world, as far as Iceland, have listened to us. We've seen the data on YouTube. It's pretty nuts. So.
That's pretty incredible. One of the reasons that Rushmore Academy has asked me to conduct this interview is I'm taking this great class on this term on the impact the Beatles have had, not only on music, but society. Would you agree that the Beatles have played a vital role in shaping music as we know it today?
Oh, without question. Yeah, the Beatles, I would argue, are probably the most influential band of the last 100 years, if not of all time. They are on the short list of the most influential bands at the very least. I'd say anybody that's got two brain cells scrubbed together would say that. I mean, them and Elvis obviously are up there, and then you can go back to like the classical composers and things like that. But I mean, the Beatles to me are on par with Beethoven or Mozart, whoever you've got. I mean, they're up there. So.
Would it be safe to say, since they are up there and so influential, that they've actually influenced your band specifically?
No doubt.
How so?
It's nearly impossible, again, I think, to escape that influence. One of our songs, I think later on you get a chance to listen to it, you'll add a link, where we were listening to a lot of Oasis at the time when we recorded that song and wrote that song. And Oasis,
who are also influenced big time.
So even if it wasn't a direct thing, like we sat down and listened to Sgt. Pepper and then go, oh, yeah, let's do that. Like the bands we listened to that were around in the 90s and the 2000s are obviously influenced. Another band that I really like, Panic at the Disco. Huge Beatles influence. Their second record, I mean, it's their Sgt. Pepper. They've, I think, even went on record saying that they were listening to Sgt. Pepper when they wrote that, and that's one of my favorites as a modern.
It's funny how we all have these favorite bands influence. My favorite band's the Arctic Monkeys, and they actually played a cover of "Come Together," I believe, at the Olympics last year. So it's amazing just how much the Beatles have been able to spread out, and even here we are 40 years later. So the Beatles, of course, as we've mentioned and we talked about, are widely considered to be the best band of all time. During the 60s, they experienced critical acclaim for their music and productions. As a musician, what are some of the downfalls of having that much success that quickly? I know we've had a lot of people that are tuning in today to listen to you in this interview, so I know you're doing pretty well yourself. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I wish I had the same problem with fame that the Beatles had as far as our music goes, but it's interesting you mentioned that because we started off just playing on my porch, essentially, my buddies and I, and a couple friends would come over and just have a couple beers after class. Like, wow, you guys are pretty good. You could do something with this stuff. And before you know it, we are playing our first show. We play our first show, then we're booking bigger and bigger venues. And we actually got to do a little bit of light touring. We played at a county fair, which, again, not the Beatles, it's not Beatlemania we're talking about, but we played in front of a few thousand people. So to do that, we played at the Granada in Lawrence. Again, pretty big venue. We've played in multiple states. Like, we've been around. And just to think all this stuff happened within a year, a calendar year, it surpassed all of my wildest expectations. We also got to do some recording. But with that stuff, though, I would say there was a huge downside. That's getting to the question you asked, because it stopped being fun, and we lost a lot of creativity with our music for a while there because it became a job. And you also run into a lot of terrible club owners that when we don't get a good gate, you're essentially fired and looked down upon, and it's rough.
When you talk about how sometimes it got a little bit tough, maybe a little tense with the band, did it ever get tense with the band members? You may recall that the Beatles themselves actually had some ups and downs, obviously breaking up before the end of the 60s. Ringo Starr left the band for a couple weeks. People seemed to be upset about their roles in the band. All of them wanted to go and do their solo careers, it seemed like at one point. Would you say that you guys have experienced any of that, or is it still too early? Or, yeah?
Oh, we have. Keeping a steady drummer has been tough for us. The first drummer we had, awesome guy. We really liked him, but there's just heads butted a lot creatively. We wanted to get done with our band, so got rid of that guy. Unfortunately, just kind of the business side of it. Had to move on. Found a different drummer who far surpassed him music-wise, technically-wise, but we never quite hit it off the way the other guy had, where he was a better friend to us, but not quite technically as strong per se. So that aspect of it, we did have trouble keeping people around, and same thing with our guitar player. When Sean Wells' band became the Vonnegutians, he kind of went off and did his own thing, and now it's just Sean and I, and we renamed the band, and we're still kind of flying that flag a little bit, but it's different, and the sound's different. So
let's go a different direction for a moment. Another aspect of the Beatles' growth was how they became a bit more influential in the political side of the world. John Lennon routinely attempted to champion the plight of the poor. Is it inevitable for bands to become involved politically and socially as they ascend the ladder of fame? Like, would you consider your band to be political?
Okay, so that's a good question. The way I look at it like this, we don't set out to write political music, but the genre, Red Dirt Country, for example, by definition, it's an offshoot of this mainstream country, top 40 country, Rascal Flatts, and that type of stuff. This is the other side of that. This is, in theory, again, music for the people, by the people like us, that we're not so interested in selling records and selling out, as it were. So it's more that style of it. And to me, that's a very powerful political statement, even more so than writing a song about politics. When you got guys like Toby Keith out there singing about politics, but what's your message really when your CD's for sale at Walmart for $14.99? I mean, like, really?
Good point. Good point.
That's why I look at that one.
Yeah. Good points all around there. The album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band is widely accepted as revolutionary, not only because of its music, but also the artistic aspects of the album cover and inner panels. Mm-hmm. Has that album, or any other Beatles albums, perhaps the White Album, played a role in shaping the artistic side of the Vonnegutians?
Yeah, like I said, to me, it's nearly impossible for it not to have. Because when you talk about Sgt. Pepper, that album revolutionized music, period. So the influences that we have that are a little bit closer to us age-wise and stuff, they were definitely influenced by that. Every band has been. Like I said, that the song, Unwritten Song that you're going to have a link to, there's definitely an Oasis vibe to it. There's no doubt about it, but Oasis to me has a Beatles vibe. So we're like 1 degree removed from it, really. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely aware of the Beatles as a band. We've listened to them. We're fans. So yeah, it influenced us, and I love Paul McCartney. I mean, hello, bass player, right? Except for I play it the correct way on the right side, but no.
Explain that a little bit more, the correct way.
Well, he's the lefty. So when he does, you'll notice all the other guys. You've got George Harrison playing his guitar this way. You've got John Lennon playing it this way. And there's Paul flipped around the opposite direction, so he plays left-handed.
Who's the Epstein, the Brian Epstein of the band? Do you have a manager? Do you have it's you?
This guy. Yeah, see, now that's another cool thing to talk about, too, because Sean of our band, our lead singer, he's predominantly our writer as well. I contribute some lyrics and stuff, but he's the musical genius of the band by far. He writes the music, he writes the lyrics, he writes everything. He composes. he even does most of our recording stuff. Like he's a whiz in the studio. For me, my strengths have always been setting up the gigs, making sure the bills get paid, making sure everybody's happy, kind of being the glue that holds it all together. I take the fall when there's a club owner that's not happy with stuff. All that kind of thing. Also, I do a lot of our press for the couple of times we've had to do interviews. Sean's not a big fan of that kind of stuff. So, like when the college newspaper or the college television station wanted to talk to us, usually they come to me. I kind of am the front of the band as far as that stuff goes, like I've seen was for the Beatles. But I also get the added benefit of getting to be up there on the stage on a Friday night and hang out with my buddies too, so I get the best of both worlds.
Well, let's hope that nothing ever happens to you, just like Mr. Epstein. The
That's
tender age of 32, so let's hope
a couple more years, knocking on wood.
So we have a link below to one of your pieces, Unwritten Song. You've told us a little bit about how it influenced maybe a little bit of an Oasis vibe to it. Favorite Oasis song, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, boy. I'm going to have to say probably Champagne Supernova.
Champagne Supernova is a good one.
I do like that song. Well, I know it's probably the cliche stock answer, but there's a reason why it's a cliche. It's awesome. It's a beautiful song.
I would say Wonderwall would typically be the stock answer, so I think you're okay with Champagne Supernova.
Cool. I don't want to be that guy that just throws out the...
You're not that guy in my book. So they played a role into it. Anything else you want to tell us about the song before we're graced with
just check
our
it
ears
out
are
and
graced?
enjoy it. We have tons of stuff under Sean Wells' band and the Vonnegutians. Check it all out. It's all of varying quality. Some of it's a little bit silly. Some of it's a little bit more, literary because we are big lit guys, so we read a lot, and some of it's like that. But there's something for everybody, but I don't think everything on there is for everybody. There's going to be some things that you probably won't enjoy as much, and that's okay too.
Brandon Wolak, thank you very much for your time. Look forward to seeing you live in the near future.
Thanks, brother.